All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
From the vineyards of St. Catharines to the U.S. borderline, through the towns where the rivers shine, they stand ready when the sirens cry, guarding every soul beneath Niagara's sky. Niagara 911, the brave and the true, from Fort Erie shores to Grimsby's view. Every call, every night, every dawn, when duty calls, Niagara 911 answers the call.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, Tuber, and of course your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, right here in downtown St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on Lake Street, just in front of beautiful Montebello Park. Now, the gentleman that you can see beside me is a gentleman that I've had the pleasure of having on the show a number of times. We welcome author, researcher, and investigator whose curiosity has taken him deep into the realms of mystery, metaphysics, and the unexplained. Jeff Danelek is the creator behind Our Curious World, a platform dedicated to exploring ghosts, UFOs, reincarnation, cryptids, spirituality, and many unanswered questions that continue to fascinate humanity. With a body of work spanning books, articles, and decades of research, Jeff approaches the paranormal with a rare blend of open-mindedness and critical inquiry. Whether he's examining what happens after we die, investigating the possibility of ET visitations, or analyzing the nature of consciousness itself, Jeff invites readers and listeners to think deeper, question assumptions, and entertain the extraordinary. Explanation tonight, we're going to be diving into some of the biggest mysteries he's explored and gain insight to what those topics continue to captivate millions around the world. Joining me now is Jeff Danelek, whose website is ourcuriousworld.com. And Jeff, welcome back to the X Zone. Always great seeing you, my friend. How have you been?
I have been great. Thank you very much for having me on.
Jeff, you and I span the ages. You know, You've talked about ghosts, you've talked about UFOs, you've talked about many things. How many books have you written all told at this point?
I've either authored or co-authored about a dozen, and then I got a couple more coming out next year. So
wow.
14 books, I guess.
What's your favorite topic?
Oh, wow, you have to ask what day of the week it is.
Right. What day of the week is it?
I think lately I've been really working a lot on, I did a rework on ghosts and another one on kind of a secular look at God and evidence for the afterlife, things like that.
God and the afterlife and religious mysteries are just, they're so popular these days. Why do you think that is, Jeff?
I think people are really searching for something. A lot of people are leaving the traditional churches, and they're not really ready to become full-blown atheists. Mm-hmm. So they're looking at different options out there. I think people want God, they just don't want the religion that goes with it. And so I give them different options they can look at and let them decide for themselves if any of those work for them.
The other night I was talking to Vicki Joy Anderson, and we were talking about sleep paralysis and the connection between sleep paralysis, religion, and ET visitations. And one thing that I took away from our conversation with Vicki was that people think it's time that either the established religions modern up their views and bring their philosophies out of the dark ages to the present times, or else people are just leaving. A number of people that I've spoken to over the years have left the religious philosophies like Christianity and gone over to paganism. Have you noticed anything like this?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. In fact, I came out of the evangelical churches myself 25 years ago. I was a fundamentalist. And then I started to look at reincarnation, and it led me down that road, But yeah, a lot of people, I think, are really looking at those earth religions. They seem to speak to people, especially people who are environmentally conscious.
Right.
So I think that's very attractive to them. And then people just don't want the theology. They don't want the dogma. They really want to just have a one-on-one experience with the divine, and they find it in nature a lot of times, and I do too.
When you look at religion, a question I like to ask the theologists that come on the show is, how do you think the Bible would have been written if the events that happened so many years ago were to happen right now? How different would the Bible be? Or, in fact, would there be a Bible? Because we'd be able to explain all the so-called mysteries.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you could write a Bible today. I mean, we would be able to explain everything, and everything would be, people would just say, hey, that's just fake. That resurrection doesn't really happen. That's just AI. So I don't think you could do it. But there are kind of Bibles out there for people who are going down a different path. Like you have a bunch of different channel writings out there that are very popular now that people are starting to read. Although I would caution people to be careful, because everything is done through filters. We all have our own filters, the way we look at the world. And even if I'm channeling information and I think I'm getting from the other side, it's going to be through my filter. And it may not really resonate with you. So I'm always cautious about reading anything and taking anything very seriously that's channeled. If it speaks to you, fine, but just hold it lightly. I think that's your best advice.
Jeff, for listeners and viewers having the opportunity of meeting you for the very first time, what is your mission behind Our Curious World?
I just want to get people interested in expanding beyond the day-to-day of life, and just think about the mysteries out there. Is there, could there really be a Bigfoot? Are UFOs real? Is there really such a thing as ghosts?
Yeah.
Is there God, for that matter? People don't, in my opinion or my experience, don't really seem to think about these things very often or put any great thought into it. And so my mission is to kind of kickstart people. I'm not a guru. I'm not a spiritual teacher. I just like to kind of plant seeds and let people see if that speaks to them, and then follow it where it takes them.
So you're a farmer of human souls.
Yeah, I guess you could say I'm a
I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
farmer of human souls. I like that.
On a business card.
Yeah. What originally sparked your interest in the paranormal, Jeff?
I think I've always been interested in stuff like this ever since I was a teenager. I liked the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, yeah.
And I was into all that stuff. And then when I got into evangelical Christianity, that's, it has a lot to do with the Holy Spirit and all these different demons and things.
Yeah.
And that just kind of led me down a lot of different paths. But it really is in the last 20, 25 years that my interest really burgeoned in this stuff. And I just started to go off in a lot of different tangents. And I must have that gene. Maybe I just have that curiosity gene or something, but I really can't answer exactly why, because I don't have a lot of these experiences personally. I've never seen a ghost. I've never seen Bigfoot, but for some reason, I just seem to be attracted to all those things and just try to figure them out from a logical standpoint. What's going on?
It's a great way of looking at it, because it seems that here in the paranormal, when you think you've actually solved one mystery, what you've actually done is unlocked a box with another 20 behind it. There never seems to be that piece of hard evidence that you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that, yes, there is a Bigfoot. Yes, UFOs are real. Yes, there are ghosts. And people need answers. We're a species that need answers, but unfortunately not very many people like you, Jeff, who want to openly say that this is a mystery. I want to know more. And I think it's because of of radio shows like Coast to Coast and old TV shows like The X-Files and Unsolved Mysteries, that people have come to the conclusion that, hey, I've had an experience that I thought I was the only one who had it. It seems that other people are having these experiences too. So what's behind the experience? What's behind the mystery? Who's the man behind the curtain? And I think, knowing you all these years, that you're the guy who's out there trying to help people discover for themselves what these mysteries are.
Yeah, I think people really do want an answer to their experience. And the scientists will get on there and say, well, that's just, your brain going short-circuited or whatever.
Yeah.
Sleep paralysis or whatever it is. But that doesn't solve a lot of issues for people. People have had real experiences and they don't understand what happened to them. And the science just doesn't really give them the answers they're looking for. So what I do is I encourage them to maybe check out some other avenues before they decide that they're nuts, or so they can kind of find some peace and maybe solve some issues in their own life.
Plus, I know for a fact that people who have had these experiences, after many years, they get the opportunity to talk and get it off their chest. They feel a lot better knowing that they're not alone, that this is a phenomena that, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of people have experienced, like UFOs. Then there are the people who've experienced or believe they've experienced alien abductions, and the list goes on and on and on. And I think that as a race, we owe it to each other to try our very best to try and help to understand these problems. For example, ghosts. How many people believe in ghosts? Is it because they want to believe that there's something that is out there, something that happens to us after we leave this meat suit that we call a body? Is there life, is there eternal life? Is God real? These are just many questions that people are asking today, and we've got to go to a break in about a minute, but I would like you to think about this when we go on the break. How do you see the application of artificial intelligence as well as quantum physics working with people like yourself and other researchers and investigators out there to solve the mysteries that you and I talk about on a daily basis?
Okay, I'll put some thought into it and see if I can come up with something for you.
All right. Jeff Danelek is our special guest, X-Zone Nation, www.ourcuriousworld.com. And Jeff was telling me he now has a YouTube channel, and it's Our Space Curious Space World. Am I right, Jeff?
That's absolutely right.
Okay, Jeff and I will be back on the other side of this break as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell. My very special guest and friend, Jeff Danelek, is with us. And we'll be back on the other side, continuing our quest for the truth with the Farmer of Souls. I'm Rob McConnell. Jeff Danelek and I return.
From the vineyards of St. Catharines to the U.S. borderline, through the towns where the rivers shine, they stand ready when the sirens cry, guarding every soul beneath Niagara's sky. Niagara 911, the brave and the true, from Fort Erie shores to Grimsby's view. Every call, every night, every dawn, when duty calls, Niagara 911.
Past midnight on Yates Street, the signal hums low. The static's alive and the shadows glow. Through the glass of the control room door, something whispers, we've been here before. Old footsteps echo the real size. The red on air, light flickers and dies. Through the hallway, a chill creeps deep. CKTB never sleeps. Ghosts on Yates Street, calling my name, riding the airwaves, lost in the flame. From the grave
Welcome back, everyone. That's a song that I did entitled Ghosts on 8th Street. It's all about the time that the X Zone was being broadcast from there at the studios of 610 CKTB in St. Catharines. Undoubtedly the most haunted radio station in Canada. My guest this hour, the one and only Jeff Danelek, the sower of seeds and the farmer of souls. I love that. There you go. Title for your next book. Compliments. Yeah. Okay, so how do you see the advent of AI and quantum physics coming into the realm of the paranormal, and how do you think, after the many years of experience you have, how can you see them helping or hindering researchers and or investigators?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not really well versed in quantum physics. It's, I barely can get through math, but I can speak a little bit about AI, which I have kind of mixed feelings about. I do believe that it has some potential. I like the fact that it can be programmed to be unbiased. Mm-hmm. Just accumulates information. So when I'm doing research, I have no problem, putting something into Google and seeing what AI tells me. It's usually pretty accurate. So I think it's a really great tool for acquiring information. I do think it can be used for bad things if you're not careful. I think people can program it to do very negative things. But as long as we are aware of that and just be cautious, I think it can be very helpful. Now, I've heard of people actually talking to their AI, people who are kind of like shut-ins and they don't get out much. They're very introverted. And if the AI is up to speed, it can be very helpful to some people. It can give them kind of a sounding board to talk about their problems and sometimes even be helpful.
Wow.
But you could get addicted to that. You're better off with a human being if possible. But in a pinch, AI might be real helpful. Now, how it would help with the paranormal, I don't really know, other than just its ability to collect information in an unbiased manner and not try to filter it. That would be very helpful. But I don't know if it's capable of really moving the goalposts, so to speak, and really finding out anything new.
You've written extensively about ghosts, Jeff. What evidence do you personally find most compelling that something survives physical death?
Well, in my book coming out next summer, I talk about NDEs, reincarnation, and mediumship. And I think those are the three things that I think together really point to this idea of a post-mortem existence. Now, NDEs, of course, have been tried to be explained away as oxygen deprivation and things like that. However, I am curious as to why there's so much consistency in all the reports. Even people who aren't religious often have very similar kinds of experiences as those who are claimed to be religious or spiritual. With mediumship, there's some good mediums out there, and I think that they really are contacting, in many cases, spirits on the other side. I think that you need to have it confirmed. They have to have information in their contact that couldn't be looked up online or learned in some other way. But there are some very good quality mediums out there. And then finally, with the whole idea of reincarnation, you have children who are 3 or 4 years old who can tell you all about their last life, who they were married to, where they worked, how they died. This isn't stuff that, a 3 or 4-year-old is likely to talk about or make up. I mean, I got grandkids myself, and they're never going to come up with something like that. So I can't imagine that there's not something there that's worth really exploring in detail.
What are some of your most convincing UFO stories that you've studied?
Well, the one that I had myself, which I actually did make a YouTube video of, where I just talk about the UFO that I spotted in Denver, Colorado, back in 2008.
Wow, can you share it with us?
Well, I can give you kind of a brief overview. I was going to a conference about, I don't know if you remember Stan Romanek or not. They were doing a whole MUFON conference with him at the Tivoli Center down in downtown Denver. And during the break, halfway through the show, my son and I went outside, and I looked up, and there was a series of orbs of light that were maybe 6 or 7 of them. They were rotating very fast around the center. And the curious thing is that when they were on the left side of the circle, they were very bright. Mm-hmm. They're on the right side, they would completely vanish, and then reappear, vanish, reappear, and this lasted for maybe a good 30 seconds to a minute. And I don't think it was a flying saucer or anything, but it looked to me like a display of energy, like something was manipulating energy, maybe balls of plasma or something like that, as kind of just a show to show what we can do. Maybe it was a way of affirming what Romanak was talking about in his talk. I don't know what that was, but I wish I'd had the presence of mind to have gotten some video of it. But anyway, if you want to find out more details and a more extended explanation, you could look it up on my YouTube channel if you get a chance.
Sounds interesting, and I'm sure a number of people will go there. Do you think that whoever or whatever these were knew that the people inside of that conference would have had the ability to believe in what they saw?
Well, yeah, I was wondering about that, and why that particular conference, and why it was done in such a way that it wouldn't be seen by the rest of the city.
Right.
It was only seen by the people who went outside during the break. I wonder if it's not a way of confirming some of Stan's story. I know Stan's fallen on hard times lately, but I thought that I co-wrote his book with him. Basically, I ghost wrote his book for Llewellyn, and I got to see a lot of the evidence that he had accumulated. And a lot of people think, of course, Stan is just making this stuff up, and I'm undecided, but I was curious as to why this happened at that particular moment, as though it was like, hey guys, pay attention to what he's telling you. There might be something valid in there for you.
Interesting, to say the least. How about alien abductions? What's your take on that, Jeff?
Well, I do think that sleep paralysis does explain some of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've never actually experienced sleep paralysis personally, so I can't really tell you what it feels like. But from people who have had it, it's just you're just kind of frozen and stuck in your bed. You can't get out. And I can see how that could maybe affect you if you are easily influenced by science fiction programs of that nature where they talk about it. However, I am not opposed to the idea that some people may have actually had these kinds of experiences. In one of my books I wrote years ago called UFOs, The Great Debate, I deal with the issue of abductions a little bit more. And my point was that they seem to be wanting to get people to be comfortable with the idea that they're out there. And this is a way, like crop circles and things like that, that they sort of just kind of plant little seeds that people can pick up on and get used to the idea that we're not alone.
See, there you are, planting more seeds.
I'm doing the same thing the aliens are.
Yeah. Well,
so the idea is that once that starts making it into Hollywood and other things like that, then we get more used to the idea that they're out there, so that when they do introduce themselves, we're not so freaked out.
Why do you think it's taking them so long?
Well, I do believe that they have kind of a compact where they don't interfere with other races. They just kind of observe them.
Right.
And they let them get to a point where maybe they need to contact us at some point, but I think it's going to be very subtle. It's not going to be like just flying saucers showing up at the White House or anything. It's going to be much more behind the scenes. I think it'll go through different scientists.
Oh, my good Lord, don't even suggest that, because President Trump tomorrow is going to dig up the front lawn and put a UFO landing pad there.
It's not even something useful that he could have there. Right?
Yeah. In your opinion, is there a connection between alien abductions, UFOs, and a slip, a time slip, or a dimensional slip when these occurrences happen? Could they be from another dimension that at a certain time, or due to some circumstances where the dimensions actually open and allow one to enter the other? Could there be something dimensional about UFOs?
Well, I guess it's a possibility. I've never really explored the idea that much. I'm not really clear on how different dimensions work. I mean, I got the four down that we use.
Right.
Once you get into like the 11th and 12th dimension, I'm sort of lost.
Me too.
I do think that it's a possibility that there are interdimensional beings and that they can move in and out of our reality. in the same way ghosts can move in and out of our reality. So I don't think that's really too out there. I just don't know if that's necessarily the best explanation for these things, but I'm open to it. Like I said, I'm a safe place. If you want to discuss your ideas with me, I'll listen to it, but I just don't really know what to think.
When it comes to disclosure, do you think that the governments of the world have the answers and they're just not sharing it with the population?
Well, honestly, I don't think that any government is competent enough to keep this really a secret for this long. I do think that things have happened, especially to military pilots and things like this, that they have seen things. I think there's also still that stigma that if you're a colonel and you want to be a general, you don't really want to go public with your UFO story. So there's probably sort of a kind of an understanding that these are things you don't really talk about unless you really have to. Although a few pilots have come forward with videos and radar turns and things. So I think that the government has a cache of information, and they're trying to find a way to sort of get it out there in little increments, and let's kind of see what the public does with it. Whether they're going to salute it or not. But I think that there is some information that the government is definitely keeping hidden. But I think that over the years you'll start seeing these come out more and more as people get more comfortable with the idea of talking about them, especially on the government level.
Got to go for a break in a couple of seconds here, but in your opinion, do you believe that these ETs pose a threat to humanity?
No, I don't. I think if they were going to really do us damage, they would have done it by now when we were much weaker than we are.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I agree with you, my friend. Jeff Danelek's our special guest. OurCuriousWorld.com is his website, his YouTube channel. Our_Curious_World. This is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe, dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, Tuber, and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ, that stream us around the world on classic1220.ca. I'm Rob McConnell, Jeff Danelek, and I return after this short break.
She left the port of Superior Town, a hold weighed down with steel, a proud old ship on the inland sea with a heart of iron and keel. The winds, they whispered through November's chill as the skies began to moan, and the crew looked north through the gathering storm, far from their hearth and home.
Oh, the lake was cold and the night was black and the wind tore through her sails. She fought the waves till her spine was cracked by the fury of Superior's gales. Now the bell still tolls where the waters swell and the ghostly breakers wail for the 29 men who never came back from the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Jeff Danelek is my special guest, X Zone Nation, www.ourcuriousworld.com, and his YouTube channel is Our Curious World. And Jeff, you and I were talking earlier in this hour about reincarnation, and you gave us a few examples about young children who, were able to tell of a past life that could be authenticated and verified. What do you think happens after we die?
Wow, that's quite a question. I'm going to say that, in my own personal opinion, I do think that we just make a transition. We don't really go anywhere. I think we just move our vibrational frequency. We kind of leave the meat suit, as they say, and we just move into a different being, a different reality, if you will, where we're still conscious. I think we are still have our memories.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can still interact to some degree with those still on the planet. But for the most part, I think we can create whatever reality we want for ourselves. If you expect to see Jesus, you'll probably see Jesus. If you expect to see Muhammad, that's who you'll find. If you don't expect to see anybody, maybe you'll find friends or family or all kinds of different beings up there. But I do think that once you move out of this plane of existence into the next, you have a very more expanded experience, much more conscious. You're much more aware of everything. And then you decide what you want to learn next on your spiritual journey. Do you want to come back to Earth and try it again? Do you want to go into a different dimension, or do you want to be a spirit guide for some other people? Do you want to do that? So I do believe there's endless number of options available to us once we slip the surly bonds.
Is there a difference, in your opinion, between a spirit guide and a guardian angel?
Yeah, I think there is. I think that angels are specific spiritual entities that have never lived on Earth. They never had a physical body. And they tend to be more higher order frequencies, vibrational frequencies that maybe work with the collective more so than with individuals. Whereas a spirit guide can may or may not have been a human at one time who's now in a spirit form, who has acquired enough knowledge and understanding that they are useful to helping other people still in the flesh move along their spiritual journey. I also believe everybody has a spirit guide, by the way. You just have to ask it to show itself to you. And don't be surprised if it does so in very subtle, unexpected ways.
Have you asked about your own spirit guide, and how has it shown you in very subtle ways that you, in fact, Jeff Danelek, have a spirit guide?
Well, funny you should ask. My spirit guide's name is Sherman.
Sherman.
Sherman. No one has a spirit guide named Sherman. So I'm driving down the street in Denver, and I'm getting through every light, not hitting a single light down 14th. All of a sudden, I hit a light on Sherman Street. So that's how he confirmed his name to me. Anyway, how does he work? He works through intuition, through I suppose you'd call it hunches.
Right.
Sometimes I will be thinking about something on my own, and all of a sudden I'll listen to a YouTube video in which the guy in there reiterates exactly what I was thinking. It's almost like the guide was pointing me to that YouTube video, or to a book, or to a conversation with somebody that confirms something for me. So I think the guide is working in a lot of different ways, but they're not in your face. They're just kind of like just very subtle about it.
You know, how do you balance between open-mindedness with maintaining critical thinking when researching mysterious places or mysterious events or those bumps in the night that people tell you about?
Well, you always want to look first for a natural explanation. If you hear something in your house, you don't know what it is, you want to think maybe first it's air in the pipes. It could be an animal crawling around the roof. But if you start getting some really bizarre things, then you have to move up the line and start thinking more beyond just material possibilities. But it takes some work. You really have to have a good way of balancing between the logical and just the hunches and intuitions that you have. At some point, however, you have to make a decision whether this is something paranormal, or is it just a natural thing I don't understand. Or maybe just leave it alone and say, I don't know what it was I saw, but I'm going to just go on with my life and see what happens next.
You've written about demons and the darker side of the paranormal.
Oh, yeah.
Is it more prevalent today than it was, let's say, 10, 15 years ago, that people are talking more about demons and the shadow people, the negative side of the paranormal?
The dark side, yeah.
Dark side, yeah.
I do believe that they're not really evil. I think that there are entities that exist at different vibrational frequencies, and some of them are much lower than others. They're much less developed spiritually. And we tend to call these entities demons and things like that. I do think they're out there. I don't know if there's any more of them than there's ever been. I think we're more aware of them. However, demon mythology has been around for thousands of years, so it's not like it's something that just kind of developed in Hollywood in the last 30 years or so. It's been out there a long time.
Yeah.
I do think that people get carried away with it, though, and they start thinking that everything's a demon. So that they're terrified of the paranormal because they think it's opening a door to the hell world. And I just try to tell people that if you go into the paranormal with a positive, compassion, upbeat attitude, positive attitude, you're probably not going to encounter those lower entities. They have to be invited into your life. So as long as you don't do that, you shouldn't have any problem.
What about a Ouija board? Do Ouija boards open up the porthole that you're talking about? Okay.
That's a very controversial subject. Yeah, Ouija boards are interesting. I don't mess with them myself, but I have studied them a little bit. I think it is a way that if you're just a bunch of kids sitting around a board, goofing around, you can open up yourself to some things not so good that might be out there. A lot of it, I think, is just a game. But there are times, I think, under certain circumstances where an entity might be attracted to a Ouija board. Then also there's a couple of instances, and I talk about in my book, in which people have used the Ouija board to make contact with an entity that ended up becoming a major influence in their life. For example, there was a woman in 1913 who started to work with this ghost on the Ouija board named Patience Worth. And she ended up writing a number of novels and poems that were published, that were acclaimed. And this woman she had just a very basic education. She had no writing skills, but she was writing books under the pseudonym of Patience Worth that were acclaimed by critics at the time. So really an interesting story.
Is that possible that this was part of her past life, that this is another example of reincarnation, that maybe in a past life she was a well-known author and that carried over to this life?
Well, that's one possibility. I've never heard of anybody being able to go from having absolutely no education in that area to suddenly being able to write, quality fiction. I think that if that were the case, that she would have been drawn towards writing earlier on, and she would have developed those skills. If I was a pianist in my last life and I wanted to, I would probably want to take up the piano again, and I would just continue to develop what I'd worked on from before. It's a possibility that Patience Worth was a prior incarnation of hers who was a frustrated writer, and she found this opportunity through this woman to express herself artistically, and maybe she just took advantage of it.
In your opinion, Jeff, what role does consciousness play in the paranormal and in the topics that you write about and talk about?
Well, consciousness is, I believe, the primary force that makes everything possible. I think everything is held together by consciousness. The universe, a plant, a tree, us, everything is a byproduct of that. And it doesn't originate in the brain, although the brain, I think, is a receiver of consciousness. I believe it exists as a field of consciousness throughout the universe, and then each individual brain, whether it's human or animal or whatever it is, picks up enough of that consciousness to be able to function. In our case, our brains develop sufficiently that when we pick up consciousness, we can actually consider our own life and think about things like life and death that maybe a lizard wouldn't be able to. But yeah, I think there's a lot of it out there, and I think that we just need to learn how to manipulate it and how to understand it.
Jeff, how has your work changed, challenged, or expanded your worldview?
Well, I have to say, I think my whole life has been one big moment of cognitive dissonance. I started out as a evangelical, conservative Republican, and today I'm a New Age progressive. So I've come pretty much full circle in my whole life. And I think that really in the last 25 years, especially as I've explored these issues, I've expanded my understanding of the universe and my compassion, hopefully, towards people. I think I'm much less judgmental than I used to be. Because I see that people are at different places in their spiritual walk, and even if they're like nasty people, they're in pain.
Yeah.
So I just try to remember that I'm also on my walk, and there's people who are ahead of me, people who are behind me. It doesn't make anybody better than anyone else. It just puts us in different places.
In your opinion, again, what is the most misunderstood aspect of the paranormal?
Well, that you're actually dealing with demons, like we were talking about earlier. A lot of people won't even consider the idea that you could talk to a ghost or talk to a spirit guide because they just assume that you're going to open the door to, Satan. And I think that's probably the biggest misconception about it. Hollywood has done a good job in making it scary because almost every movie about the paranormal, it's usually things jumping out at you, trying to kill you, if there's zombies, whatever it is. The paranormal, I don't think, is any more frightening than life itself is. I mean, you go out on the street and you're going to meet all kinds of people, some of them not so nice and some of them very nice. And I think the paranormal is the same way. You go out there into that world and you're going to encounter energies that are benevolent and loving and caring and kind. And you're going to also find some that are a little messed up.
Explanation, my guest this hour, the one and only Jeff Danelek, the farmer of souls.
Wow.
His website, ourcuriousworld.com, and his YouTube channel, Our Curious World. Are you a skeptic, believer? Send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and Jeff and I will be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, and streaming through our good friends at classic1220.ca.
November's chill as the skies began to moan, and the crew looked north through the gathering storm, far from their hearth and home. Oh, the lake was cold and the night was black and the snow falls down, the candles glow. There's peace in hearts the world should know. A stranger smiles, a child believes, and love wraps softly like Christmas Eve. We open doors, we lend a hand. Together we learn to understand. Old friends call and bridges mend. For Christmas turns our hearts again. If every day were Christmas, what a world this would be, where love and hope and kindness flow like lights on every tree. If we could keep this feeling when the season fades away, the world would shine forever bright if Christmas lived each day.
Welcome back, everyone. Jeff Danelek is our special guest. His website is ourcuriousworld.com, and his YouTube channel is Our Curious World. First of all, Jeff, thanks very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here on the X Zone. Always a great pleasure talking to you, and I wish you much more success.
Thank you.
And love to talk to you again when your new books come out. But I've got a feeling we'll be talking before then. Having had you on the show a number of times, and we've talked about many, many different topics. What patterns do you see across different paranormal phenomena that suggest a unifying explanation?
Well, the unifying explanation is that there are things that exist that are beyond our means of detecting. I think that's always been the case throughout history. Before we invented the microscope, we didn't know there was germs. Before we invented the telescope, we didn't know there was other planets out there. So I think that we're just in a place right now where we're still learning what might be out there. And I think people who decide that we already know everything that there is to know, there's nothing more out there, UFOs are bunk, Bigfoot's nonsense, I think they miss something really important by not opening themselves up to this possibility that there's a lot more under the sun than we have dreamed of.
Plus the fact that we only use, what is it, 10 to 12% of our brain? And I wonder if that was deliberately set within our DNA, that we didn't use more, because if we used more, then we'd have many more mysteries to unsolve. And with our limited knowledge, how would we contend with all the different mysteries that would seem so much more complicated than the ones we have right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the brain is actually used as a buffer. In fact, there's a lot going on around us that we couldn't handle if we really saw all of it. If we saw all the light on the full spectrum, we couldn't handle it. If we heard all sound from low frequency to ultra high, we couldn't handle it. So our brain actually buffers it. And I think that's what happens with meditation and maybe the use of some hallucinogenic drugs, is that we actually lower that buffer so that we can perceive these things now that we couldn't perceive before. I think the brain does a lot more than we think it does, besides run our body. I mean, it probably is a pretty amazing machine, really.
What about dreams? What do you think dreams represent? Is this just how we purge or defrag our brain at the end of the day, or is there something much more significant that happens during the nighttime or daytime hours where we actually are able to go to sleep or enter into a meditative state where we just find peace within ourselves, and then we have these dreams?
Well, I think there's 3 reasons we dream. First of all, like you said, we're defragging. We're trying to put everything away for the day, put it in the right cabinet. There's also some kind of often hidden concerns that we're not aware of that come out in our dreams, certain sessions or fears that we have that we don't really know consciously, and they kind of manifest in our dreams. And then finally, I think also the spirit world can also get in touch with us through our dreams. My wife once had a dream in which she sat down at the kitchen table and talked to her late father about whether she should marry me. This is when we were still dating, and he had been dead for several years, but she was very devoted to him. And they talked for a good long time, and I guess I won out. Apparently, I did, because I'm still married. But so I think that's how the way the spirit realm can sometimes get your attention too.
During the work that you've done, the research for the many books that you have you ever encountered something in your research that genuinely frightened you?
No, I've never really been frightened of anything. I suppose the scariest thing that I do study is Bigfoot. I mean, the idea of encountering an 8-foot tall, hairy man in the middle of the woods is a little frightening to me. So that's probably the closest thing I've ever been to being afraid of something. Mm-hmm. But not really. I find all of the stuff intriguing or interesting or confusing, but I don't really find any of it really frightening.
How is it that we haven't been able to establish the existence of Bigfoot with all the technology at our disposal these days? It seems that he's more elusive now than he was in the past.
Yeah, actually, I have a whole YouTube video on that, by the way. But yeah, what the whole idea is this is a creature it's not an animal. I think it's more of a human. It's much more closely related to us than it is to the apes. As a result, if you took a very intelligent human and you gave them all the abilities of an animal, mm-hmm. the toughness, the ruggedness, gave them the knowledge of the lay of the land.
Right.
If he didn't want you to find him, you're not going to find him. You watch these TV shows where they're out looking for Bigfoot. They've got the people looking for Bigfoot. They've got the cameraman or a couple of cameramen. They got the sound producer. They got the assistant producer. You got 5-6 people clomping through the woods. And 2 o'clock in the morning, Bigfoot knows they're there. Everybody in the Bigfoot community knows they're there. So and you're not likely to see one unless it wants you to see it, or if it's maybe a very young one that just made a mistake and got caught in the open. But for the most part, I think that Bigfoot's in pretty safe hands right now as long as he just stays away from us.
You know, going through the woods, I've seen cadavers of deer, bears, and other animals. But nobody's ever found a cadaver of a Bigfoot.
Yeah, that we know of. But perhaps they bury their dead. Maybe they are more human than we think.
Yeah.
I've been learning recently that Neanderthals used to bury their dead. We didn't realize that at first, but we would start digging up some Neanderthal skeletons, and they would had ceremonies for them and everything. So, and those aren't even humans. So I don't think it's remarkable that they might bury their dead. It's also possible that they're cannibalistic. So they might actually consume the flesh of their dead to acquire their soul or their spirit. It's kind of like the same reason cannibals eat people. So it's possible that they actually consume the bodies of their dead.
I never thought of that. Mind you, that's why you're the farmer of the souls and the gentleman behind Our Curious World. What advice, excuse me, I'm still battling this cold of mine. What advice do you give to people who want to explore the unexplained responsibly?
Well, first of all, do your research and be open to a lot of different sources. Don't try to get stuck in one person and just listening to everything they say. See if what they say corresponds to what other people in the field are talking about. Try to get a consensus among different teachers, and just do your research by and large. I know people have a very short attention span, but really, if this is something that interests you and you really want to know more, you're going to have to do the work. There's no easy way to do it.
Tell us about your YouTube channel and what listeners and viewers can find when they go to Our Curious World on YouTube.
Well, we talked about some of the UFO videos but I also have a lot of other kind of historical oddities. I have was Amelia Earhart spy for the president? Stuff like that. Why did Judas really betray Jesus? Was there a historical Jesus at all? So you'll find a whole hodgepodge of things, which is kind of bad for the algorithm because it doesn't know what to make of my YouTube channel. But you go in there and see if there's something in there that doesn't pique your interest. I'll bet you it will.
What's next for Jeff Danelek? How many? You've got 3 or 4 books coming out next year?
Just 2. I got one out of England and then one out of Llewellyn in Minneapolis. That's right now. This winter, I'm going to try to get serious about finding myself an agent and trying to market some of my fiction. I have kind of a spiritual theme, historical fiction, and I'd like to see if I can pursue that. And I'm just basically open to see whatever Spirit wants to show me and lead me to do.
Have you asked Spirit about Jesus, if Jesus was real?
Not specifically, no, but I do believe there was a historical figure named Jesus. I'm just not sure he was everything that people make him out to be in terms of a divine being. But that's just my opinion. You can look it up on my YouTube channel and see if you agree.
No Jesus. That means no Christmas.
Well, hey, you can't take it. You got to have Christmas.
I believe so. I was talking to somebody today, and they said, well, why can't we have Christmas every day of the year? Because at Christmas time, people change. It's like a miracle that we all change. We dig deeper in our pockets to help the poor. We open the doors, we smile a lot, we sing a lot. Why couldn't we do this all year long, Jeff?
Well, I don't understand why we couldn't have Christmas always in the summer. It'd be a lot easier, I think. They do it right in Australia, so I don't know why we couldn't.
It'd be better for the kids. Instead of getting them a snow toy like a toboggan or a set of skis, you just get them a 3-wheel bicycle or a 2-wheeler, and away you go. And instead of drinking inside when it's cold outside, you could actually open up a can of your favorite boozy and enjoy it on the back lawn while you sit in your summer chairs and enjoy the season. After all, it is the season to get smashed. I mean, it is the season to be jolly.
I've heard that, yes.
Jeff, I want to thank you ever so much for coming on the show. It's always a great pleasure talking to you. I wish you continued success. And once again, OurCuriousWorld.com is your website, and your YouTube channel is Our Curious World, right?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me on, Rob. It's been a lot of fun.
Until the next time we meet, take care of yourself. And if I don't have the opportunity of speaking to you before the 25th of December, to you and yours, a very Merry Christmas, and I wish you nothing but the best for the new year, my friend.
Oh, Feliz Navidad.
Joyeux Noël.
All right.
Bye-bye, Jeff. My guest this hour has been Jeff Danelek, Exonation, www.ourcuriousworld.com, and his YouTube channel is Our Curious World. That's it for this hour. I'll be back on the other side of this break as, guess what, we continue from our broadcast center and studios right here in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be back talking about, guess what, the weird, the strange, the paranormal, everything here in the X Zone.
The candles glow. There's peace in hearts the world should know. A stranger smiles, a child believes, and love wraps softly like Christmas Eve. We all